When you picture soldiers in World War II, images of foxholes, muddy boots and canvas tents swaying in the wind often come to mind. But anyone who's ever spent a night in freezing, open terrain knows that tents, while convenient, were rarely enough. They tore in high winds, sagged under snow, and trapped condensation that soaked clothes and bedding. Behind the lines, forward-thinking engineers developed a frame system so simple yet so effective that it changed the way soldiers survived in winter campaigns. This was not a luxury, it was survival. Today, we're going to explore the World War II frame trick that kept troops warm and operational, why it worked better than tents, and, well, how you can apply these lessons in modern survival or historical reenactment. Why the traditional tent failed against winter conditions. Conventional canvas tents were light and portable, but their weaknesses were honestly lethal in extreme cold. Wind would blow beneath the edges, carrying snow and icy particles straight into the interior. The canvas itself became brittle in sub-zero temperatures, and, accumulated snow could tear seams or even collapse the structure entirely. Moisture from breath, melting snow, and damp ground condensed on the interior walls, drenching soldiers' clothing and bedding, making things, well, even more miserable. Even when a fire was present, heat escaped too quickly, and soldiers often awoke shivering, their morale and readiness honestly compromised before the day even began. It was clear that a new approach was needed, something sturdier, more thermally efficient, and, adaptable to harsh winter environments. So, how did the World War II frame trick solve the problem? Well, the solution was deceptively simple. A rigid yet lightweight frame that created a semi-permanent shelter, capable of holding heavy coverings and resisting wind. The frame was usually constructed from timber or tubular steel, arranged to form a low, compact structure with a sloped roof. Unlike a tent, the frame kept the canvas or other covering taut and raised off the ground, preventing sagging snow accumulation and cold drafts. Interior space was optimized to minimize heat loss, while still allowing soldiers to move, store equipment, and sleep without direct exposure to the elements. Soldiers would often combine this frame with layered coverings, including canvas, wool, or hessian sheets. The combination of a rigid structure and layered insulation created a microclimate that retained heat far better than a freestanding tent. It's quite fascinating how these elements work together to create such an efficient environment. Condensation was minimized because airflow could be managed without sacrificing warmth. Troops could spend hours or even days inside with far less fatigue and greater protection from frostbite or hypothermia. This was crucial for maintaining the health and effectiveness of the soldiers. Why frame rigidity was key to survival. The genius of the frame system lay in its rigidity. Wind pressure, snow loads and repeated use would collapse a normal tent, but a properly designed frame distributed these forces across the structure. It's amazing how such a simple concept could make such a difference in survival. Vertical supports carried the weight, while crossbeams stabilized against lateral stress. Even in storms, the coverings stayed in place. In open plains or mountainous regions, this simple mechanical principle transformed a temporary shelter into a reliable defensive post or bivouac. For modern enthusiasts, this teaches a critical lesson. Stability and structure matter more than portability in extreme conditions. When building a winter shelter, whether for camping, survival or reenactment, prioritizing a rigid frame over a simple tarp can, really increase both warmth and safety. A basic wooden or aluminum frame can support snow loads and resist wind without adding excessive weight, which is honestly pretty important out there. How soldiers adapted the frames to different terrains is, quite fascinating. In forests, frames could be anchored to trees or rocks, allowing soldiers to hang coverings in ways that deflected wind and trapped snow on the leeward side. In open snowfields, frames were staked and reinforced with packed snow or turf to act as a barrier against wind gusts. Even the smallest adjustments, like leaving a slight gap near the floor for ventilation, made the difference between frostbite and a comfortable night. This principle can be applied today for modern cold-weather shelters. Position your frame with the prevailing wind at your back, pack snow or earth against the windward side, and layer coverings to trap heat. The goal is to manage airflow, weight, and insulation simultaneously, exactly as World War II soldiers did. How the World War II frame trick influenced modern survival and military shelters. The World War II frame trick was more than just a field expedient. It shaped future shelter design. Military engineers realized that portability and rapid deployment could coexist with sturdiness and thermal efficiency. After the war, there were some pretty remarkable innovations in things like bivouac tents, prefab winter shelters, and even, modern disaster relief housing. All of these really borrow from the same tried and tested principles. A rigid frame, combined with layered insulation, creates a stable and, frankly, habitable interior even in the harshest of conditions. For survivalists, the lesson is, I think, quite clear. Shelter isn't just about, covering yourself. It's about creating a controlled environment where heat is retained, moisture is managed, and, crucially, structural integrity is maintained. Honestly, investing time in building or selecting a strong frame will pay off in terms of comfort, endurance, and, of course, safety. So, how can you apply this World War II knowledge today? Well, if you're planning winter camping, or maybe preparing for survival scenarios, you should start by constructing a low, rigid frame using whatever materials you have at hand: lightweight timber, PVC, or even aluminum tubing, for instance. Position it against prevailing winds and layer with canvas, tarps, or wool blankets. Keep the covering taut, leave small vents for airflow, and, consider adding a snow or turf berm to the windward side. This will mimic the microclimate benefits World War II soldiers achieved, giving you warmth, dryness and resilience in conditions that would, honestly, overwhelm a conventional tent. The World War II frame trick reminds us that history is not just about battles. It's about practical ingenuity in the face of extreme conditions. Soldiers didn't rely on luck. They engineered solutions that could survive storms, snow and frost. And today, those lessons can be adapted by anyone seeking to master winter survival. If uncovering these overlooked military innovations excites you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this video. Passing on this knowledge keeps history alive while giving you the tools to survive and thrive in the harshest environments.